Perfect.
All right, cool. I'm just going to have my camera on for just a little while so that I can say hello to everybody, but then I will shut it off so that we can better focus on the presentation ahead. Appreciate everybody showing up today. I'm gonna do a few slides of introduction to Zoom for those of you that might be a little bit new to Zoom. By this time, probably most of us are pros at this. We have enabled chat tonight, so we encourage you and welcome you to use the chat. If you don't notice, you can send the chat to a variety of different audiences, including each other and including just us panelists. But we'd really like to encourage everybody to send to everyone. That way everybody can see the chat. And Steph is with me tonight. She's going to be monitoring the chat for questions, and we will hopefully have time at the end, if I don't start talking too much, to go over those questions. So Steph, if you don't mind to kind of keep track of the questions, and then we can break during the middle, hopefully, and then also at the end to do some Q&A. If you have any questions or tech issues, please just add that to the chat and Steph will try to troubleshoot with you. All right, let's get started. A little practice with the chat. Question is, where are you from and what is your role as an educator? I know that probably not all of us are formal classroom teachers. That's cool. You might be a parent, you might just be a bird lover, you might be a grandparent or do some after school program, but let us know where you're from and maybe why you've attended this webinar or what kind of educator you are. Awesome. I recognize a few of the names as people who are normal, regular attendees to our webinars. Thank you so much for coming back tonight. I know this is a super busy time of year for everybody. Curious who our furthest participant is. I'm in Ithaca, New York, as is Steph. Anybody from outside the US? Oh, there's India. Oh, in Argentina? Awesome.
Zambia too, it says.
Yeah, Solis, I recognize your name. Fantastic. A few from St. Louis. That's my hometown. Go Cards. Fantastic. Well, I really welcome you to tonight's webinar. Boy, as I was preparing for today, trying to figure out what I could cram into 1 hour when I think about a smorgasbord, a menu of opportunities for educators and folks who are interested in birds, it was honestly really hard to decide what to include because there is so much. So I really constrained myself to try to look at both the Cornell Lab of Ornithology stuff and our K-12 team things and pick kind of the highlights of what I think people would most enjoy hearing about. That said, I know that I've missed some things. So if you have any other resources or ideas that you'd like to recommend, please don't hesitate to add them into the chat. All right, here's a picture of the Lab of Ornithology. It's located in Ithaca, New York. We're a nonprofit that's affiliated with Cornell University. And we've got a conservation mission, our mission to interpret and conserve the Earth's biological diversity 3 ways: research, education, and citizen science focused on birds. And I love that mission. And I love that as the K-12 team, we get to interpret all of the amazing things that the lab has to offer, specifically with a lens toward helping educators reach young people. We have 3 pillars, and our 3 pillars are nature, participatory science, and inquiry. And we're a team currently of 4 people, although this is actually my last webinar. I'm in my last few weeks at the lab. I've been here since 2004. So I grew the Cornell Lab's K-12 education program over the last 20 years. And it was kind of bittersweet today in preparing for this and kind of looking through all the wet lab site and all the things that we've done. It kind of was a stroll down memory lane. So this is awesome. I appreciate everybody being here with me tonight as I kind of give this review of great resources. And in my absence, of course, the team will continue. We've got Susan, Kelly, and Steph who's here today. And at the end of the presentation, I'll share our general email account. And you can always reach out to us with any questions, any concerns. And Steph, you did an awesome job of creating a document today to share with folks. If you want to put that in the chat, we're going to go through so many different resources, and I didn't want Steph necessarily to have to share about 30 different links with you. So we've created a Google document with all those links. Encourage you just to look at that document and maybe make some notations of the things that you want to come back to, because I can assure you this webinar is going to feel more like a gallop than a stroll. All right. So, like I mentioned a minute ago, we have 3 pillars at the lab's K-12 team. We really want to get kids just connected to nature, get them outside, looking at the earth and biodiversity, specifically through the lens of birds. We want to engage them in participatory science projects. If you've attended our webinars or our trainings in the past, you may have heard us talk about citizen science. We're trying to shift the terminology to participatory science to be both more inclusive in our language, but also in the kinds of projects that we support. And finally, our pillar of inquiry, or the ability or the resources that help kids ask and answer their own questions. And across these 3 pillars, the K-12 team offers a variety of resources, which discussed tonight, and training like this webinar. And one more chat question before we really get rolling. And a beautiful image here to maybe inspire you. But most of what we're going to share tonight is really through the lens of birds. And when I first got hired 20 years ago at the lab, I was not an ornithologist. I wasn't even that into birds. However, in the last 20 years, I've just come to the understanding that birds are just an amazing tool for engaging really audiences of all ages, but especially K-12 youth. So looking at this picture, what are some of the reasons why maybe some of you have engaged your students in birds, or think birds are a great topic of conversation in your classrooms or in your after-school programs, etc.? Yeah, Aaron, great answer. Birds are easily accessible and they are everywhere, right? Even here in Ithaca, when it's been like snowy and cold the last few weeks, I can still hear birds and see birds. I look out my window and notice cardinals and chickadees, and there was a dark-eyed junco perched right outside of my window box today. They're just everywhere all year round, right? Kids can see them. You don't need expensive tools. Binoculars are great, but a lot of our feeder birds will come right up to us. Yep. Awesome pathway to conservation. Perfect. Yep. They're colorful. They're enjoyable to draw and watch. Mindfulness. I love that. Thank you, Katie, for that response. Jenna, they're a hoot. Yes, of course. I also think when I look at this, when I think of birds as a teaching topic, you may not find the word birds except for one time in the NGSS standards. However, you can teach so much content through the lens of birds, right? Adaptations, look at all the different beaks that these birds have and the colors and the behaviors that they have. I think they're cool because they fly, right? And they sing. They kind of capture our imagination in that way. What else? Anything else that I've missed? Yeah, Michelle, great answer. Birds are a part of every content area. You can teach so much through the lens of birds. Math, especially when we start talking about participatory science, they're truly kind of go beyond the bounds of science. Wonderful. All right, well, now that we're warmed up thinking about birds, let's explore some of the amazing free resources that we have at the lab. All right, I've divided today's presentation basically into 5 buckets. The first bucket I thought of was stuff that the lab offers that in many cases we've got embedded in the K-12 resources, but there are things that I think time and time again educators have said, man, I love this from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So I want to share that bucket. I want to share resources from our 3 pillars: nature connection, participatory science, and inquiry-based learning. And then I'm going to give you some resources too that'll help you go further if you'd like. All right, first bucket, Cornell Lab Resources. The ones I chose from here: webcams, Play Lab, and the book guides. And obviously the Cornell Lab K-12 team has developed resources around all 3 of these areas. Who is a fan of webcams, and which webcams do you use? This is a big one, I think, for many educators and for people in their with their families as well. The bird cams started with just a couple of bird cams. We had the red-tailed hawks that were located on the Cornell campus, and we also had the oh shoot, the great blue herons located on the pond at Sapsucker Woods. And over the years, the number and diversity of cams has just continued to grow. Now we have albatross, we have the Panama fruit feeders that are really active year round. We have several feeder watch cams, and then in the nesting season, we switch to a lot of different nest cams and nest boxes. Maybe you've seen some of these cams. Recently, we released our Spark Student Curiosity Guide to wildlife cams, and I encourage you to download that if you haven't seen it yet. It's really hot off the presses. I think we just released it about a month ago, and that you'll find that link in the document that Steph sent. You know, cams are super diverse. They've got cams now, everything from at like SPCAs and looking at pets to in aquaria to in the ocean, many cams in terrestrial environments, everything from like the African savanna to feeder cams like the ones we offer. So this guide isn't just focused on bird cams, although bird cams are awesome. And the one thing that I really love about our cams, and I consider you to consider when you are looking for a cam, our bird cams also have streaming sound, and a lot of teachers have said that the sound is so awesome that they can start their day with the bird cams and the sound from the bird cams. It helps chill the kids out and make them ready to learn. So encourage you to check out wildlife cams in that resource. I wonder if many of you are familiar with the Bird Academy Play Lab. Bird Academy is better known at the lab as our source for courses. You may have taken some of our courses, but the one thing that I love more than anything about the Bird Academy is actually the Play Lab. We have a lot of online interactives such as Beast Box. You'll see them listed here: Flap to the Future, The Wall of Birds, All About Bird Anatomy, and Birdsong Hero. Very approachable for teachers. In fact, my daughter, she's now 12, but she has loved playing Flap to the Future since she was about 6 years old. So these are amazing for really, I think, grades K-12. And the lab K-12 team has built some educational resources around these. So they're great to play on their own, but also some of them have teacher resources. And when you look on the various buckets on the Play Lab site, you'll see that some of them have linked teacher resources. Let me highlight for you a couple of my very favorites from Play Lab. Have you seen The Wall of Birds? It is awesome. This is an actual painting on the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's wall, but what they've done is digitize that wall. And for each of these birds, which are life size at the lab, you can click on the wall and find out what that bird is, where it lives, fun facts, listen to it, all of that. We love we love using this interactive in our various materials because it's such a great representation of the diversity of bird life. One of the activities that I love and have encouraged kids to do many, many times is to just poke around the wall of birds and challenge them to find, for example, the most colorful bird, the bird that they would define as the most dangerous. Listen to the birds and figure out what is the one that they can find that has the weirdest sound, or which bird would you most want to see. That could be a cool bird, or it could be that that bird lives in a place where you'd like to visit. So there's lots of ways to build educational content through the wall of birds. If you haven't played around with All About Bird Anatomy, it's really cool. It starts out with this skeletal bird, but then you can click on and off the different layers of birds. So if you want to see the feathers and the feather names, you can do that. You can learn about the musculature of a bird, and you can just click through, see the bird's circulatory system, all of that. So click on and off. This is great, I think, more for like middle and high school, and also for lifelong learners, adults who want to know more about birds and bird biology and bird anatomy. So encourage you to look at that All About Bird Anatomy as well. All right, the next thing I would like to highlight is our book guides. About 10 years ago, maybe, the lab formed its own press, which is Cornell Lab Publishing Group, and started releasing a variety of kids' books, trade books. And we've been able to develop educators' guides around these various books, some of which were by famous authors such as Jane Yolen. And Ruby's Bird, which is actually written by my supervisor, Maya Thompson. We've got a variety of books. I think there's probably about 20 of them now, and each of them come with these bird guides. And again, you'll find that list on our website and a link to that list in the document that Steph shared earlier. One of the birds books that we've used many times is called Crow Not Crow. This is by Jane Yolen of Owl Moon fame. And in this book, a child goes for a walk with her dad, who's a big birder, and he teaches her a new method of birding called Crow Not Crow. And it helps her look at the birds in a new way. So just start with a simple question: is that a crow or isn't it a crow? And then he encourages her to look at, does it have the red patches of a red-winged blackbird, or is it smaller like a grackle with a yellow eye? And so she really hones in on those field marks of the birds as she plays this Crow Not Crow game. And in the book guide, we have probably about 8 or 10 different activities inspired by this book, such as what makes a crow a crow. We have the kids do things like Venn diagrams between two common birds. Probably many of us, unless you're in outside the US, have some kind of crow and some kind of blackbird, and do a Venn diagram of those two. Again, really helping kids realize the differences between birds so that they can better identify them. Another of my favorite books, this one also by Maya Thompson. I think one of the reasons it's my favorite is it's a graphic novel. So it tends to be a little bit for older students, maybe 3rd, 4th grade on through middle school. And in this book, there is a peregrine falcon who is our hero of the story. And various birds come across this winged hero, the peregrine falcon. And so what we do in the book guide and on our website is draw connections to the real birds behind these super birds. And the book is written in this very engaging way that shows some of the superpowers that these birds have, like the peregrine falcon can dive in a stoop at over 200 miles per hour, and the golden eagle and his amazing sight, and the snowy owl and all the adaptations that it has, for example. So we encourage the students to visit the Wall of Birds Interactive to get inspired by the real adaptations of birds, and then create their own super bird. And it has been really fun to see the birds that the kids have developed, the bird that plays baseball, for example. Moving into Nature Connection, probably my favorite bucket if I had to be pressed. Oh, the other thing that I did throughout this PowerPoint, because it's my last one, right? I put my daughter on as many slides as I could. This is my daughter. She has been helping me field test these resources for the last 12 years of her life. And I have to give her $1 for every time mommy takes a picture and uses it in a PowerPoint. So I will owe her a couple of dollars after tonight's PowerPoint show. The things in this Nature Connection bucket are 3 things: the Explorer's Guidebook, the Cooped Up Kids resources, and our Feathered Friends Guide. If any of you have used any of these, I welcome you to send in the chat how you've used them and any advice that you might have for other educators who might be interested in using them. All right, Explorer's Guidebook. This is a really pretty simple download. Everything I've mentioned so far is free, by the way. I should have mentioned that right off the bat. And you can use these guidebooks to engage the kids in things like looking for bird groups and doing scavenger hunt cards. We do offer them in print, although with my departure and Steph about to go on maternity leave, we are discontinuing the store as of December 31st. So if you do want to order prints of this, you can, but only for the next week and a half. Otherwise, they are a free download. One of my very favorite activities in the Explorer's Guidebook is activity 1. It's called a sound map. And this opens up a new kind of observation for kids, using their ears to observe birds instead of their eyes. And here's an example sound map. The way that I like to do this is go outside with just a blank piece of paper and a pencil, put an X in the middle, and listen to all the sounds around, not just birds, but cars and the rustling of leaves in the trees, and maybe footsteps of your friends walking by, those kinds of things. And what I've had kids tell me time and time again is, like, after about 5 minutes, their ears start to open and they start hearing new sounds. They start hearing like the buzzing of little flies and the rustling of leaves and things really, really far away. And I really think that this is just such a good way to plug into the environment and to plug into nature and close your eyes and listen. It's a mindfulness activity as well. Moving on to Cooped Up Kids. This was pretty much a year of the K-12 team's lives. When the pandemic started, when parents and teachers alike were all of a sudden trying to teach kids remotely and struggling to do so, I remember those days well. We started rolling out these Cooped Up Kids resources. There are now 15 of them, and I'll show you the names of those in just a moment. But each of the 15 has a leader guide, like the one that's pictured here. It comes with a Google slideshow that either could be parent or teacher led or student led. The students can just use the Google Slides and click through them, and it has prompts and videos and activities and so forth. All of them use only common supplies that you will easily find at your home or at your school. And each of them offers indoor and outdoor options. There's a variety of topics. And again, each of these contains the leader guide, the slideshow, and the companion website with resources. If anybody's used these and want to call out their favorite, that would be awesome. I think my favorite is probably activity 8, Earth Expedition. The reason that I love it is because what we did was we talked to some of the scientists at the lab that do these amazing trips to go record birds and interact with birds. And we put videos of their stories inside the PowerPoint, called it Earth Expedition, and have the kids model some of those scientific behaviors in their own work outside. So for example, my colleague Garrett Vin goes and takes pictures of birds in the Yellow Sea in China. He's very big into conservation of Asian birds. And we encourage the kids to watch this video of Garrett's work and how he sneaks up on the birds and he lays on his belly and he takes the pictures and he, writes his notes. And we encourage the kids to go out and do similar scientific behaviors. So that I would call out as my favorite. Steph, do you have a favorite of them? Feel free to share verbally or in the chat. And you'll see some of these, activity 11, amazing anatomy, that's going to draw from some of the activities that I've talked about before, like the all about bird anatomy lesson. Crows are cool is awesome. If you like crows, or heck, even if you don't like crows and you want to like crows, check out activity 12. It's all about crows and their awesome family behaviors and how intelligent they are. Here's a glimpse of some of the PowerPoints that the kids can go through, with links out, for example, the Flat to the Future game and challenges, for example, how to do the game, ideas for getting creative, and then all of them also have opportunities to get outside. These are 3 of the slides from the flight and migration lesson. Another one of my favorites, when we developed this, we were doing it for K-8. So these have K2, 3, 5, and middle school versions, but they're certainly adaptable up as well. One of my favorite activities is the rainbow hike. So looking for all the colors of the rainbow in your nature hike. Again, just another way to boost kids' observation skills. And there's always a way to do this. If you can't go outside, for example, you'll see you can use the wall of birds to find the colors of the rainbow in the wall of birds instead. Accompanying the cooped up kids are the quests. Here's my kiddo playing with the wall of birds. These quests complement the cooped up kids activities. They're really designed with families in mind. And there are a list of 27 indoor and 27 outdoor quests that use lab resources and materials as inspiration. So one of my favorite activities, take your family outside, listen for bird songs and calls, and try to imitate them. Which family member sounds most like a bird? So they're little bite-sized things that you can do if you're looking for something fun for a weekend, or if you're a teacher and want something, oh my gosh, it's Friday and the kids are squirrely and I just need to get them to do something active and fun. Look at the quests and I am sure you will find at least a few things that appeal to you. And the last one in this nature connection bucket is Feathered Friends. Feathered Friends is a very long running download. I think we've been offering this with the support of Pennington Birdseed and Feeder Company for probably 10 years. It's a free download, 10 monthly lessons. Each one includes a bird of the month, so you can learn about birds through them. And there are many themes, including those that are listed here. So somewhat similar to Cooped Up Kids in the themes. However, Feathered Friends is much more classroom based and designed for groups of kids in mind, whereas Cooped Up Kids is much more of sort of an independent activity. Here's a glance of one of the activities. I believe this is the September activity, What Makes a Bird a Bird? The bird of the month there is the American crow. And then for each of these lessons, there's a home connection to encourage you to make a copy and send it home so that kids can connect the learning with their families as well. All right, I think we're at about the halfway point. Are there any questions or anything that's come up, Steph?
Yes, we do have a question. Someone was wondering about a recommendation for a textbook or online ornithology curriculum for a high school course.
Ooh, that's a good question.
I have the Cornell one, which is great.
There is the Cornell one. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? About that one, is it still called the Handbook of Bird Biology?
Yeah, let me put the link in here. Yeah, the Handbook of Bird Biology, it's on its third edition right now.
So
And
that would obviously be the textbook that we recommend. We have had some high school teachers develop semester-long or full-year ornithology courses for high school. I will suggest that you Google Jeff Manker. No, the Handbook of Bird Biology is not free. If you Google Jeff Manker's name, he is one of our Cornell Lab K-12 advisory board members. He's now retired, but he developed a full ornithology course for high school, and he's written about it online. That's why I'm suggesting maybe to look him up. And also, whomever asked that question, don't hesitate to email us afterward, and we can dig into some of those resources and maybe send you some ideas. The other option that might be good for either high school students as a classroom or high school students that are really into birds and want to know more is the Bird Academy, those courses. There is an all about bird biology course. There's a crow course. There are a lot of specialty courses in there that have been completed by many teens.
I added the link to the comprehensive bird biology one, which is a little pricey, but it's on sale right now. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for the questions. All right, moving on to the birding and participatory science bucket. And this is the part that I've got to remain focused because I could talk about participatory science for days and days, and at times I have. 3 buckets here. I want to talk a little bit about feeding birds because I really think that feeders can bring the birds in to you, and they're super engaging for kids. They can eliminate the need for binoculars, our Merlin app, and the eBird Citizen Science Project. So a feeder brings the birds to you. I found so many teachers who have gotten started with birding. It becomes a little bit of an addiction. You may start with one feeder, and then before long, you have several different kinds of feeders and suets and bird baths and all of this stuff. So encourage you to get started there. One of my favorite resources pertaining to bird feeding is this Project Feeder Watch Food and Feeder Interactive. So you can click where you are, what kind of feeder you have, and what kind of seed you're interested in getting, and then it will list all the birds that are common to your area that are likely to eat from that feeder and be attracted by that seed. And so you can kind of play around with it and see what birds you might attract with, for example, suet versus black whale sunflower seed versus a mixed seed. Moving on to participatory or citizen science. If you're not familiar with this term, it's the idea that people, just regular people like us, can report their observation using basic scientific protocols. So at the lab, our citizen science projects involve identifying and observing birds, collecting data about those birds, typically using an online data form, entering that data, and then most of our projects also have really awesome data out. So not only can you enter the data and take part in the project, but also you can look at the data that's been submitted from around the world. The kind of data, obviously, that we collect is different depending on the project. For example, Project Feeder Watch is focused on feeder birds, and Nest Watch is focused on nesting birds. So you answer questions like how many eggs were there, when were they laid, when did they hatch, how many were successful, that kind of thing. But the project I want to dig most deeply into tonight is the eBird Citizen Science Project. One, because it's the biggest one, but also because it's the most flexible. And one thing that I've seen and teachers have reported from all grade levels is that kids are really motivated to participate because their counts really matter. You know, it's motivating. They can feel like, hey, I'm doing something to help birds and I'm helping scientists at the same time. If anybody has any comments, if they've done citizen science projects and how they've kind of used that motivation to help the kids kind of plug into the project, welcome you to respond on that. If you want to do citizen science and you're new to birding, you might be curious, well, how do I get started? How do I identify the birds? Those kinds of questions. We have an app for that, and it's called Merlin. It is amazing, and it changed the way that I birded, and it's one of these things, whenever I go to a teacher conference, many teachers come up to me and say, oh my gosh, I love your app. I just love your app. And this is the app that they're talking about. Merlin has over the years grown. It used to just be 5 simple questions, and Merlin would predict what bird you're likely to see. But now they've developed also photo ID, sound ID, which is a game changer, and an explore birds function, which just lets you kind of check out the birds in your area. I'll talk a little bit about sound ID because people absolutely love it. It's kind of like Shazam for birding. You hit record, hold your phone up, and the app will detect the birds, and through machine learning and understanding what birds sound like, it's going to highlight what birds it thinks it's hearing. Oh, there's a crow, there's a blue jay, there's a black-capped chickadee, at least from my area. It's pretty amazing resource. Some of the ways that we've used Merlin, well, my favorite is probably to help kids make their own bingo cards. So through that Explore Birds function, you can pretty easily come up with a list of your top 9 birds. And then you can have kids develop their own bird bingo card to go out and look for those birds. Some people have said, well, isn't this kind of, like for little kids? But we've actually had high school kids that love to do this as well. And then they just find pictures, if they're not into sketching and drawing, which, I am, and I'm an adult, sort of, that the kids can either do this digitally or drawing, go out and find the birds in their area. And it's just a way to integrate the technology with some hands-on and nature-based practice. And we have written this bird bingo post, exactly how to do it and how to use Merlin to do this in a blog post. And so you'll find that link. So what might look like a picture of sort of light pollution at night is actually an image of where the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has gotten citizen science data from. And you'll see at this point, we've gotten over 1 billion observations, many millions of checklists, every species on the planet practically, and every country in the world. So it's massive. It is just a massive database, and it relies on all of us to contribute our data. As I mentioned, eBird, our biggest project, and also our most flexible. We collect data on every bird, anywhere, anytime, year-round. It's remarkably simple to use. Basically 3 steps. Where were you? What did you do and when? And what did you see or hear? And you can do that online, or you can do that with the eBird app. What does this allow us to do? I'll just let this play. You can see that this is an animated GIF through a year. This is showing the midpoint of a range of 117 different species and where they move throughout the year. Here we have another kind of graph from eBird Data Out. This is a line graph, 5 common birds in New York, but you can see the patterns. For example, the purple line, the yellow warbler, doesn't arrive in New York until about April the 8th. And then about 45% of people say they see yellow warbler when they send in their checklists, and then the bird leaves and it's gone by mid-October. So you can see all these cool patterns, and it's interesting for us to dig into, for students to dig into, but for scientists, this is really helping us understand where birds are, how their populations are doing, when and where they're migrating, that kind of thing. And it's only possible from these massive databases that are crowdsourced. So if anybody is an eBirder, we really do appreciate your data and encourage you to eBird as often as possible. And one more resource related to birding and participatory science, we've got the Inside Birding series. This is a series of videos. Chris and Jesse work together, and it goes through their tips for bird ID, including size and shape, behavior, habitat, etc. I think there's a series of 4 videos. They're each about 10 minutes long, and those are free on the website. And those will be linked within that document that Steph shared. All right, I realize I'm going fast, but there's a lot to cover. Oops, I'm not going to show you the video. We don't have time, but I encourage you to watch it. Okay, so if you have a bird, a favorite bird like black-capped chickadee or whatever chickadee you might have in your backyard, how can you learn more about this bird using Cornell Lab Resources? There's a lot of ways, but here are the top 5 that I would suggest to you. You can explore the black-capped chickadee using the Merlin app. You can just search it. You can use All About Birds, which is our online bird guide, to find out more about this bird. Lots and lots of pictures, videos of the bird, various different sounds of the bird. You can explore it on eBird so that you can see live range maps and data submitted from around the country or around the region where the bird lives. A little known corner of the lab is Macaulay Library. Instead of a library of books, we have a library of sound and videos, and you can search black-capped chickadee and you're probably going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of images and sounds and videos of the chickadee. So if you're looking for ways to embed images and PowerPoints, go to Macaulay Library, because a lot of those resources are for use for teachers and or with permission. So check that out as a library use. And finally, Nest Watch. You can find, for example, how to build a nest box that will attract chickadees. You can find out how many eggs they lay, what the eggs look like, what the nests look like. So there's a variety of different corners of the lab that will help you discover basically information about any bird that you'd like through these different lenses. All right, we're in our last pillar, which is inquiry-based learning. This is kind of the pinnacle, right? Get kids involved in nature. That feels super important to me as an environmental educator, just getting kids outside, helping them to do these deeper kinds of things through participatory science. But the pinnacle is having them really ask and answer their own questions, inspired by their outdoor observations, inspired by their citizen science participation. Hopefully within about the next 6 weeks, we're supposed to release it. I think the date is January 23rd now, the new Students as Scientists curriculum. You might be familiar with investigating evidence if you've taken our webinars in the past. We're redoing that completely, and we're releasing it as Students as Scientists. It'll be in 2 different versions, and then also our Spark guides. Students as Scientists is going to be 2 grade bands now, K5 and a 612. I think it's going to be awesome. I finally got to that point this past week reading these, and I was like, Susan was the main driver of this whole project, and they said, Susan, this is awesome. It's finally to the point of like just perfection, and really, really making something that should be hard or could be hard and turning into something that I think teachers are really going to be able to do. So check out Students as Scientists in about 6 weeks. We will be sending lots of emails and social media posts to let you know when it's ready. Students as Scientists really takes kids through making observations, asking questions, designing their own investigations, analyzing evidence, usually data that they collect, and then interpreting their own results and sharing them. There's a real aspect in this curriculum of what is science and how is science done. So in both grade banded versions, we've featured diverse scientists across a variety of spectra to really let students know that science is something that is cool. I remember in my first field test ever at the lab, so this is probably like 18 years ago, I got back a bunch of post tests from students, and one of the questions on that post test was, would you like to be a scientist? And I was really disheartened by the number of students that said things like, no, I don't want to be a scientist, but I'd like to be a veterinarian. No, I do not want to be a scientist, but I'd like to work outside and study animals. And it was like their concept of science or scientists was an old guy with a beaker exploding things in the lab. And so really for the last 20 years, we've been trying to battle that misconception of science and make it be something that's active and is outdoors and is helping the planet. So I would really encourage you to take a look at those, even if you really have goals towards science and science identity and don't do the whole investigations. Lesson 1 in each of the curricula is really awesome for building science identity and broadening the concept of science. Here's a sneak peek at Students as Scientists. We're at 6 lessons. Each of them has a goal and essential questions. In the teacher's guide, we have a Google slide deck that you can download and change. So that's a new modification. Each of them has a project notebook, and that's also a Google Doc that you can download and edit. So make it really specific for your kids. We have student-facing resources and a companion website. So it's a very, very rich resource. And we want to make it super easy for you to step into these inquiries. So we've released a series of Spark guides to kind of spark student curiosity in order to jump into the Students as Scientists curriculum. I think my favorite one is the Feeder Design Challenge. We've done this a lot. In fact, this picture is from Girl Scout troop that I used to, well, it was my daughter's Girl Scout troop. And we tested this lesson with them because I'm always using my daughter and her friends as test subjects. And I was amazed that these little daisies could make these awesome feeders. They were so excited to hang them outside. We gave them the constraints. It needed to hang, it needed to hold at least a cup of seeds, and it needed to last outdoors for 1 or more weeks. And so the kids built these feeders. They were excited to hang them out. The birds started coming to them. Some of them fell apart, and then we could re-engineer them. But through putting up these different feeders, it again sparks student curiosity, like what makes a good feeder? How come birds were more attracted to this feeder versus that feeder? That kind of thing. All right. And the last bucket, going further. I wanted to share some things that are in fact not free. That's why I put them in the going further bucket. We have a couple of really great courses. The courses are all on sale right now, I believe through the end of the year. So this is a good time to look at courses if you're interested in them. The Let's Go Outside course, How to Connect Kids with Birds and Nature. I'm one of the instructors on that. We worked really hard to make it applicable, really more for adult mentors of students, including parents and grandparents and trusted adults, to take their kids outside and do cool things. As you can see right now, it's a $30 course. eBird Essentials is in fact free. If you want to go further in eBird, this is about a 2 or 3 hour course, and it's going to step you through not just how to enter data, but also show you some of that data out that I gave you a little bit of sample of about 10 minutes ago. And also it'll give you the background you might want about how we actually use that data to do conservation service. So encourage you to take that course. Again, it's free. It'll take you about 2 or 3 hours to get through, and it is offered in English and Spanish. And finally, we offer curriculum kits through our kitting partners at NASCO, and these are for busy teachers who don't want to have to collect materials and make plans. We've done that for you, and they come with kits full of supplies, like the owl pellet kit comes with the owl pellets and the dissection tools and all of that stuff. So if you're interested in these themes, I invite you to check out those curriculum kits. All right. I promised you a sprint through the resources, and I think I delivered. We certainly did travel fast through those 5 buckets. I welcome your questions, and also if there are any resources that you feel like I've missed, please feel free to share them in the chat.
We do have one question, Jen.
Okay.
Susan asked, is there a simple how to use Merlin presentation that can be used to teach the basics of using Merlin?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's supposed to come out next month. It's going to be the Educator's Guide to Merlin. Because of my departure, I don't know if that's actually going to be released next month, but it is coming soon. Steph, there's that video though. That really good video that Kathy narrated.
Oh, right. Let me look it up and share it. I'll also add it to the links of the document, and so I'll update it with any other things that come up during the questions.
Yeah, so that's not really like a how-to, but Kathy steps you through the 5 different ways to use Merlin, like how to use sound ID, how to use step-by-step ID, how to use the Explore Birds function. And I think that that would be the best way to start. I'd also look at that eBird Essentials course, because Merlin is like the bird ID tool that complements the eBird Citizen Science Project. So there's a lot of information about Merlin in that course as well. Awesome. I can't believe I finished 7 minutes early. I talked a lot faster than I thought I might. That's awesome, Elise, that your kids reference or your students reference the crow, not crow when birding. I've been surprised how that has taken off among little kids. Elise, can you remind us how old your students are? What grade? Michelle asked about how many K-12 schools are participating in Project Feeder Watch, and is it popular? Yes, it is popular. I know every year they give up to 50 classroom Project Feeder Watches away, and many, many more are using it. I think Project Feeder Watch I know it's over 20,000 users right now. I don't know the percent of those that are classrooms, but probably hundreds. Yeah, first graders. Thanks, Steph, for sharing that Merlin YouTube video. It's only maybe 4.5 minutes long, and that'll give you a great introduction. Yeah, a lot of people complimenting the Bird Academy courses. They are fantastic. And like I said, now's a good time to get them because they are, like, I think, all half price or deeply discounted. And there's no time limit. So if you order the course now, you can take it next year. It's not a pressured situation. Yeah, Shane, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. She's talking about how she has her students do the Draw a Scientist test. So this is a classic, like from the 80s experience where you have your kids draw a scientist. And 20, 30 years ago, almost exclusively, the scientists looked like Einstein. And there was always an exploding chemical in the picture. And we're seeing some shifts, some really positive shifts in kids drawing more realistic scientists and scientists that look like them. So young girls are drawing female scientists. students of color, drawing scientists of color, that kind of thing. So there's been a wonderful shift toward more realistic view of science. That's really great to hear. There are a lot of us working on this issue. And I appreciate that many of you are working on this issue as well and trying to make your science classes really inclusive and you know, build the next generation of science and data literacy for students. It's awesome.
There's another question in the Q&A about where do we show the science standards that are being met by each activity? So
Yep. Usually we put the science standards on the website, and we've got them for almost everything that's more than just like a simple activity or lesson. So when you do any of these free downloads, you'll see a link to the standards. What we typically link to is the next generation science standards. So that's not going to be useful for those of you that are not in GSS states or in other countries. However, I know many states are kind of using those standards as inspiration. So hopefully it will not be hard for you to adapt. Great. Well, I appreciate so much everybody that is sharing their ideas. Laura, your idea to dress up as a scientist, I love it. And yes, we try so hard to make everything free. We do that through sponsors and through gifts and through the support of people. So we really try hard to make everything, or as much as possible, free for teachers. So I appreciate those kudos. Something that we're proud of.
and someone asked about the ambassador program, and I answered
Yeah,
that.
do you want to mention that stuff?
Yeah, so we do have an ambassador program. In fact, Erin, who's commenting there, is one of our newest ones, at least. And there's a link, I'll add it to the document link. You can apply to become one. It's very simple. You just have a little quick 20 to 30-minute meeting with me, and I'll run through the course. There's like an online course on the Bird Academy for the ambassadors, and then you just have to do a workshop within the first year and keep doing one every year.
Yeah, so the ambassador program is really a train the trainer model, so that people can train other teachers at their school, in their districts, or in their states, or maybe go to a conference and present on our behalf. And we really appreciate our ambassador network and helping to expand our work. We can't travel everywhere, so thank you for helping us do that.
Yeah, and we can't send resources internationally.
Yes, unfortunately, it is a US-based program. Just shipping is outrageous right now, but we are always troubleshooting solutions to that. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I hope you found at least 2 or 3 things that maybe you'll pick up in the coming months and use. I've really appreciated being here today and kind of taking this walk down memory lane with you. So thank you for your kind comments and everything. And please continue to reach out to us. We're on Facebook, Instagram. We have our website, and you can always email us. We are always happy to try to help you use these things in your classrooms, in your libraries, in your homes. And we will, Steph and I will just stay on for another minute or two, just in case there are any questions. But otherwise, I just really appreciate everybody coming tonight.
I'm going to stop recording now.
Awesome. Happy birding, everybody. Thanks so much.